Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to focus on the risk of some very stormy weather incoming this weekend, specifically through Friday through to early hours of Sunday. As we can see, a very deep area of low pressure, not only just deep for the time of year but quite deep in general for the UK, pushing in from the west. It's going to stick around for quite a period of time. We are likely to see wind gusts in excess of 50, maybe even 60 miles per hour quite widely, and we now have yellow warnings issued from the Met Office. Initial weather warnings, I do suspect they will be adjusted in the next 24 hours or so as more short range runs do have a look at it. So we'll start by looking at the live radar, see what's going on at the moment. We'll then cover the weather warnings, as we do have yellow wind warnings issued for many parts of England and Wales. Then we'll have a look at the UKV, the arpege, and we'll have a look at the icon run, having a look at both precipitation, as there's going to be some very heavy rain and even the risk of some storms, some thunderstorms on Saturday, and of course looking at those wind gusts, seeing how well they do align with the current Met Office warnings. And then we'll finish by just having a look at the longer range as well, just to keep up to date with what could be happening through the second half of July. See if there's going to be any real improvement from this pretty unsettled and cool weather we do have at the moment. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So if you start on the live radar, it's another day of sunshine and showers, most frequent through parts of southern and eastern England, perhaps into parts of South Wales as well, and through most of Scotland and the far north of Northern Ireland. Got a strong westerly flow, seeing lots of convection take off, but not too much energy with a fairly cool Atlantic air mass. So most of these showers are moderate with a few heavier cores here or there, but we're not seeing really any thunderstorms like we have seen quite a bit recently. And even saw a few storms yesterday where these showers did break the cap. We're not seeing that at the moment. There is always the small risk this time of year, but from the latest live radar, most of the showers fairly moderate. If they move through, you will know about it, but they should move through quite quickly and they don't look too heavy. Perhaps banning through the Highlands of Scotland and perhaps part for the Midlands here, but mostly move through quite quickly, maybe 10 or 15 minutes of rain, and then you'll see some drier, sunnier weather. Temperatures not all too good today. These are the 2 p.m. temperatures, so we're starting to reach the peak of the day. And once again, we've got some oranges appearing. Temperatures just about reaching the low 20s, perhaps 20 to 22 degrees once again. Generally average to below average for the time of year. We are at the peak of summer now, the pinnacle of top temperatures for the United Kingdom. And yeah, we're not seeing anything close to what we should be seeing this time of year, where most regions should be getting into the 20s, and areas in the south and the east generally get into the mid-20s. 24, I think, is the average high for the London region, and we are well below that at the moment. Isolated areas reaching 22. Most regions just about touching 20, if not in the mid to high teens, and that will only get lower over the coming days with all the rain, wind and cloud that is incoming. Now, if you look at the weather warnings, we do have our first warning issued for Friday in western regions through parts of Wales and the whole of southwest England. It does cover most of tomorrow from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. Strong winds will bring the potential for some disruption on Friday. Now, I do think there are more warnings to be issued, because does look like there's going to be multiple batches of very strong winds as the low pressure evolves. I think the strongest winds could be, in fact, later on Saturday into early Sunday for northern regions, quite widely on the back edge of the low. So yes, these are the warnings at the moment, but if you're not including these warnings, doesn't mean you're not going to see strong winds. There is still very high chance that we see very strong winds quite widely. And even the risk of an amber warning being issued, as we'll have a look at the latest model data in a minute, and from what I'm seeing on the raw data, it's not quite aligning with the Met Office warnings as of yet. But strong winds will bring the potential for some disruption on Friday. Now, first thing I do want to clarify, because we are going to be looking at a lot of data for this in terms of numbers, and a lot of the models we have a look at are European based, so they work in kilometres per hour, whereas in the UK we work in miles per hour. So it's important So it's important to be able to relay between them, and the rough conversion is 50 miles per hour is 80 kilometers per hour. 60 miles per hour is about 95 kilometers per hour. It's about a two-thirds roughly. Two-thirds of the kilometers per hour figure is the miles per hour figure roughly. Again, we're not working in exact figures here, but that's the rough correlation. So we'll be able to see how these miles per hour figures from the Met Office do correlate with what we're seeing from the raw model data. So here, this initial weather warning is for gusts of 35 to 40 miles per hour, quite likely quite widely for a time with gusts of over 50 miles per hour. So that's 80 kilometers per hour. Interesting to see what the runs have for that in a minute. And this is likely to lead to some difficult driving conditions and some disruption given the unusual time of year for such winds. In addition, there will be very heavy rainfall leading to standing water and spray on roads. Winds are expected to ease through the evening. But I must stress, this is one batch of wind. There's going to be multiple batches. High likelihood, lower end of the impact. Because normally for the UK, we can see winds of up to 100 mile per hour gusts in the winter time, and that's what will be occupying this very high impact point. 70 mile per hour, probably this third impact point, and the one we're in is about the 50 or 60 miles per hour. But as I said, have a look at some of the raw data. There are some models suggesting we could be in this third row here, getting up to that 70 mile per hour range potentially. Now, if we do have a look at the second warning issued through Saturday, from 9 a.m. until midnight, an unseasonably windy day is likely. A deep area of low pressure will affect parts of the UK on Saturday, with some very strong gusts of winds likely to its south. A blustery and showery day, as the persistent weather front will be through northern areas, with it stretching further southwards through Friday. And we'll see 40 miles per hour, locally 50 to 50 miles per hour. So that's getting towards 80 kilometers to 90 kilometers per hour during the daytime. Strongest gusts are likely to occur mainly, but by no means exclusively, over hills and along the south coast. Some minor damage and travel disruption is likely. Winds will moderate later in the evening and overnight. But once again, I must stress, I do think there will be an even enhanced area of winds through the latter parts of Saturday into early hours of Sunday for northern regions. So I do think these warnings will be amended, if not upgraded, perhaps even more warnings put in as well. So these are the only the initial warnings. Do make sure you keep an eye on them, especially through this evening and specifically through tomorrow morning, as we're likely to see these updated around 10-11 a.m. That's generally when the Met Office do update or issue their warnings, 10-11 a.m. in the morning. So do look out for that tomorrow. This warning, though, is very likely, again, lower end of the impact. So once again, if the Met Office do get some upgrades, then there is the potential that we could see an amber warning issued from this. And once again, have a look at some of the raw model data we'll see in a minute. Even some of the data at the moment is suggesting these winds could be higher than this, more towards the 60 to 65 mile per hour range. And could that put us into an amber warning zone? Perhaps. We will just have to see. Now, if you go over to the UKV, we'll be able to look at the precipitation, we'll look at the wind gusts, and we'll have a look at the temperatures as well over the next 5 days. Now, you can see plenty of showers around at the moment, and they'll continue through this evening. Could be heavy, thundery in a few of them, but mostly moderate. Some more persistent rain will be pushing into western regions, initially light, but turning heavier through the early hours of Friday, and there could be some real torrential bouts of rain, especially on its southern and western edge of this weather front. And this is the low pressure system arriving, the storm arriving in from the west. As it progresses northwards, we'll start to see those winds really pick up with heavy, substantial rain. So Friday, for many parts of England, Wales, Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, will be a washout, unfortunately. Could see some briefly dry periods in the far southwest through the latter part of the afternoon, but most regions will have heavy rain at times. When we see the heavy rain move through, there'll be periods of on and off, moderate rainfall, with plenty of thick cloud. And of course, after all this rain on the ground, it'll be quite drab out there. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty miserable day. The far north of Scotland could get away with some of the heaviest rain, but still likely to be some initial rain on another weather front here through the morning into the early afternoon, but could generally avoid the heaviest rainfall for most of the day before it does spread in through the evening hours. As we head into Saturday, it's dry overnight in southern and eastern regions, with the weather front clearing to the north of Scotland But through Saturday afternoon, look at that. Wild conditions through the afternoon. Very strong, blustery west to northwesterly winds. And we are likely to see some heavy, thundery showers breaking out with this. If we have a look at the Cape, you can see there are moderate levels of Cape. Nothing huge, so I'm not going to see huge thunderstorms. But likely within the very deep area of low pressure we're seeing, we will see some storms breaking out with some of these darker reds appearing. Once again, anywhere could see this. And again, it depends on the exact positioning of the low pressure, where it stalls and pivots. If it's further south and eastwards, some of these heavier showers will be further southwards as well. As those at the south and the east could just about avoid the worst conditions, but very subtle shifts in the positioning of the low pressure will change that. Through Saturday afternoon into the evening, we eventually see the rainfall clear, but we've still got the weather front associated with the low pressure here into western region, giving some persistent rain, and this is where we could see the strongest gusts of wind that we'll see in a minute. Eventually that does clear, and into Sunday things are a bit brighter with things clearing up a bit. As we head into Monday, most areas actually dry initially, showers breaking out, once again mostly light to moderate, a few heavy pulses within it, but a much better day than the prior days, with things turning a little bit more settled. And then as we head into Tuesday, could see some thicker cloud come in from the southwest, potentially another approaching area of low pressure. If you look at the mean sea level pressure, you can see the deep low through the weekend pivoting around the western parts of Scotland with very strong west to northwesterly winds, getting as low as 986 millibars there. That's, or maybe even 984 millibars. Very strong area of low pressure for this time of year. Incredibly deep. And yeah, makes it like a proper winter sort of system. Now, if you look at the wind gusts, you'll be able to see that we do see an initial batch of very strong winds on Friday afternoon. This is why we got this weather warning in southern and western regions. Widely from the UKV here, 40 to 50 miles per hour, perhaps peaking at maybe 55 miles per hour over some high routes and towards coastal regions. So the Met Office warnings are pretty accurate for this, again, with their numbers. But it's through Friday afternoon and Saturday we start to see a little bit more uncertainty. As we enter Saturday, we initially see those winds die down a little bit, but as we progress through Saturday afternoon, as the low pressure starts to pivot back in, this is where wind speeds could get even higher. Now, the Met Office warning was stating wind gusts widely of 40 to 50 miles per hour, peaking maybe around the 55 miles per hour. But look at the UKV here, widely showing around the 55 mile per hour range, even slightly higher. And once again, the UKV is high resolution, but it's not going to be high resolution enough to pick up on the strongest wind gusts. So likely to see 60, maybe 65 here. And again, that would warrant potentially an increase in warning and maybe even an amber warning through Saturday afternoon. But we also need to look at northern and western regions. Look at this, a large swathe of 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts, maybe even slightly higher, just off the coast here. So again, not impacting land directly, but this will move inland as we head through the early hours of Sunday. And this is why I said there is the risk of some even stronger wind gusts for Northern Ireland, western and southern Scotland, and northern England through early hours of Sunday. So I do suspect at least a yellow warning will be issued for this low pressure as it does exit out into the North Sea there through Sunday morning, even drifting into parts of Sunday afternoon. So this is why I do think we are likely to see another weather warning issued for this system moving in here as we do head into Sunday. Now, if you look finally at the temperatures from this latest UKV run, now I can see today temperatures peaking maybe at the 22 degree range, but mostly high teens, maybe just about touching 20 degrees. Through tomorrow, with the persistent rain moving in, temperatures are going to struggle in places widely mid, maybe in low teens, at best higher teens, and maybe an isolated 20 to 22 around the Kent region. As we head into Saturday, it'll be a very blustery day. Temperatures will be very up and down, once again widely mid to high teens, maybe just about touching 22 degrees in East Anglia. Into Sunday, temperatures once again struggling, but could be more widely toward the 20 degree range through England and Wales, but still many regions in the teens. And as we head into Monday afternoon, widely 20 to 22 across England and Wales, and widely 18, 19 degrees. So rising slightly, but nothing spectacular at all. Now, if we do go over to some other short-range runs, firstly have a look at the icon run. We'll start on the wind gusts. Now, on WX charts, we do have it working in kilometers per hour. We also have this little item in the bottom right here, just off the chart, which is showing the max temperatures at this individual frame. So we'll be able to see what the max temperature is in kilometers per hour here. Remember, 80 kilometers per hour is 50 miles per hour. And of course, this does include wind gusts in this whole frame, so it could be up towards Scandinavia, could be up towards Europe. But once we do get into the proper low pressure system moving in, the strongest winds will be around the UK for this whole frame, so it will be very accurate then. So if we do move into Friday here, we can see the very strong area of low pressure approaching and could have high wind gusts just off the south of the Republic of Ireland, southwest England, southern Wales here, very strong core of winds of as high as 111, maybe 113 kilometres an hour here, 115 there, very strong winds. That would be suggestive of as high as 70 miles per hour in terms of max wind gusts. That's quite a bit higher than the UKV was showing and was suggested on the Met Office warnings. So it could warrant potentially a warning upgrade, at least perhaps in their stated values, but perhaps even towards an amber in very coastal exposed regions. Very interesting seeing that, but it is in a very small core, so again, it could just be that the icon here is tightening those ice bars a little bit more than some of the other runs are showing. As we head further through Friday, still looking likely through most of the day, the max wind gusts will be in excess of 100 kilometres per hour. That is about 60 miles per hour. So again, slightly higher than the UKV was showing. The UKV did very rarely through Friday have temperatures wind gusts anywhere in excess of 60 miles per hour. But regardless, very strong from the icon run. As we progress through Saturday, very strong winds start to appear through the early afternoon for southern regions, especially towards the London, southern Kent, parts through Kent, into Essex, central southern England, southern Wales, southwest England, and parts of the Republic of Ireland. Wind gusts here in the purples indicating 90 to maybe as high as 100 kilometres per hour. Once again, that's 50, 60, maybe as high as 65 miles per hour across a wide swathe. Again, taking in the impacts from this time of year, I wouldn't be surprised if this did get upgraded to an amber if these values came off. As we head through Sunday, we do see those winds pull away, but because the low is further southwards, we don't see that reignition of winds in the north. So that's the caveat we get here with the icon. Because the low is further southwards, we get even stronger winds in the south, but those stronger winds that were out in the North Sea are no longer there because the centre of low is further southwards. So we do get stronger winds as it does pull away through the Sunday morning, but those wind gusts are back down to sort of 70, 80 kilometres an hour, so 40, 50 miles per hour, 10, 15 miles per hour lower than the UKV was showing. Before things do die down a little bit, but could see another low pressure system moving there for Tuesday. Also, if we just have a look briefly at the precipitation for this, we have a look at the convective overview. You can see very heavy rain moving in through Friday, spiralling further northwards, and then plenty of heavy thundery showers through Saturday afternoon, for eventually all pulling away into Sunday. Now, if you also have a look at the R pairs run, once again, very similar. We've got the max wind speeds down in the southeast corner, and you can see at the moment, max wind speeds here across Scandinavia, around 50, 60 kilometres per hour, but that's all going to change as we head into Friday afternoon. Here, the R pairs peaking the winds around the 90 kilometres per hour, so actually more in line with the UKV. That would be around that 55 miles per hour range for the maxed wind gusts. So more in line with the UKV here for the arpege. Again, showing that core of wind gusts across southwest England, South Wales, and southern parts of the Republic of Ireland. As we head through Friday afternoon, the wind gusts stay widely around that 90 kilometres per hour range. And then as we head into Saturday afternoon, those winds do pick up more towards the 90, maybe 95 kilometres per hour range during the afternoon. Again, through southwest England, southern parts of England in general, and eastern regions as well, into those reds and darker sort of areas towards the purple region. Again, 60, 70, 80 kilometres an hour, maybe as high as 90. Again, wind speeds of around 40, 50, or maybe 60 miles per hour there. As we do progress beyond that into early hours of Sunday, again, we see those winds eventually pulling away, and then could see another stronger spell of winds through northern England, but not quite as strong once again as those wind gusts further southward. So very similar to the Icon run, not having that secondary batch of winds in the north as much, but regardless, still showing very strong winds in the south, just not quite as strong, more in line with the UKV. So all three runs slightly different, but all roughly show very similar pattern of events with small altercations in intensities and in positioning of those stronger wind gusts. But definitely, we got maybe three main batches of winds to look out for. The winds across southern and western regions through Friday, more widely through Friday afternoon, but perhaps not warranting a warning, and then even stronger wind gusts through Saturday afternoon in southern regions in general. Again, could cause a lot of issues there because they are looking very strong, and then could see another batch of winds as those do pull away more widely and could be further northwards from looking at the UKV. And if you finish by just having a look once again at the convective overview for this, again we can see heavy rain pushing in through Friday, and then as we head into Saturday, lots of heavy thundery showers spiralling in off the Atlantic. So you can see from all the short range runs we've looked at, it is looking pretty intense, and there could be some big issues this weekend. Do you think the warnings will be altered, perhaps expanded, perhaps upgraded, and we could see further warnings issued through Saturday into Sunday for winds continuing into Sunday morning, and we'll just have to see exactly how it does evolve. But at the moment it is looking disruptive. Whether it is majorly disruptive, whether we see upgrades and amber warnings, we'll have to wait for the Met Office to update their warnings either later today or into tomorrow morning. So if you have a look finally at the longer range, you can see the low pressure system moving in at the moment from the latest GFS looking very unsettled. As it progresses out towards the Atlantic, we go generally a little bit brighter and drier next week, but still with a westerly flow, so the temperatures won't get too much of a bump. Beyond that, all the way to 384 hours, generally a westerly flow. Low pressure not sat directly on top of us, so perhaps less rainfall quite widely, but still plenty of showers, keeping it still pretty cool and pretty miserable. If you do look at the ensembles, you can see it's well reflected. Beef spike in upper air temperatures in the next couple of days, and that's associated with the low moving through at the moment, with a big warm sector through Friday, and then generally temperatures are average to below average for the foreseeable future. Quite high amounts of precipitation, but nothing clustering too much, so still quite convective based. But briefly dry perhaps next week, which would be a little bit of a boost there. So it could be cooler next week, but a little bit drier, so not too bad. The 2 metre temperatures are not looking great. Low 20s in London. Again, it will be a few degrees cooler than that further northwards and westwards, so not particularly warm for the time of year. But regardless, hopefully a little bit drier next week. We look at the 10 metre winds. Again, you can see a big peak in the coming days, up towards 10 metres per second. Very strong, gusty winds. Because remember, we are looking mainly at gusts here, but there will be very strong sustained winds, maybe as high as 30 miles per hour sustained winds in certain regions, maybe as high as 35 or 40 for coastal regions. So could be some very strong sustained winds in places, which will also cause some disruption if you are out playing sports or outside in the garden or by the beach relaxing. And of course, could have some issues on ships as well, as we are likely to see some very high waves as well with this. And if we do finish by just looking at the ECMWF to see the agreement here, again, spiking up our temperatures in the next couple of days, high precipitation lowering a little bit next week, but increasing beyond that, and generally temperatures are average to below average. So not too much of a change in the long term, generally pretty cool and remaining fairly unsettled. But all eyes have got to be on the next sort of 72 hours or so, as we do have potentially some very disruptive weather. Again, it is very difficult to forecast storms this time of year. Low pressure systems, very strong low pressure systems this time of year, because the impacts are completely different than if this was in winter time. Winter time, trees are bare. We are expecting low pressure systems. It's pretty typical. People don't generally spend much time outside comparatively to summer, and people don't have garden furniture out. Companies don't have sort of seating out. Restaurants don't have seating outside. People aren't planning outdoor activities anywhere near as much in January, February time, so the impacts are completely different. And that's why some may be looking at this and saying 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts, we've sustained 80 or 90 miles per hour in February time, just fine with yellow warnings, maybe some minor disruption, but 50, 60 miles per hour can do a lot of damage when we have a lot more things to be damaged as we are in the summer period. So it is very difficult to say exactly what we will see from this, but do make sure that if you have got stuff planned outdoors, do have some sort of backup plan. If you have got garden furniture out, make sure it is secured to a certain extent or is sheltered from the gusty winds, as it could be pretty wild this weekend in many regions. So make sure you do stay safe. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.